Thank you very much, Eddie. My name's Tom Bloxham. Many of you will know me from Urban Splash, but actually we're here to talk about culture today. And it's quite interesting why we are at a property conference talking about culture and Manchester. I'm slightly worried because there's some slides coming up at the back, which I'm not particularly there. I can see Nick at the back, and I'm worried he's going to be Petra Kuchen. He's going to press the buzzer and tell me to get off the stage very quickly. I think culture is incredibly important, both to the city and to an individual. I think the culture is actually what enriches our lives, what makes our lives as individuals different. Seeing some music, listening to some music, reading a book, seeing some art, it can change it, and it can change your personal experience. It can also change a city's experience. And I came to Manchester 27 years ago, and I was attracted by the music, by the confidence, by the clubs. Tony Wilson just opened the Hacienda there. And there was a certain, Howard said it very well, almost a swagger, a self-confidence, almost an arrogance about Manchester and about its people and about its music. And that, I think, is something very, very important. And I think as Manchester's grown up and as we've grown up as individuals, that culture has moved from just being about music into being mainstream culture. And Manchester as a city has invested in the culture and has continued to invest in the culture. We've had prize winners. We talked about the Nobel Prize winners, the Man Booker Prize winners. The Football Museum is opening, the Corner House and the Library Theatre coming together, constant investment, constant reinvestment in the city to make the city world class. And with any product or anything, I think you need to do two things really well. One is to get the product right, and I think we spend a lot of time in Manchester, and I think we're very, very grateful to the City Council and Richard Leese and Howard Bernstein for putting culture right at the top of the agenda, because culture makes a real difference to the city. We're all after people wanting to come and invest in the city. We're after people wanting to come and move to the city and inward investment. And although some things are important for them, like the labour force and premises and the rest of it, the biggest decision makers are individuals. And individuals to come to cities where they'll enjoy to work and where they'll enjoy to live. And somebody's a decision maker, the chief executive, and his or her wife or husband will think about what the culture's like, what the feel of Manchester is perceived to be around the world. And we've got a fantastic track record over the years of getting the product right, of developing new product, and then telling people about it. And it's one thing that I think Manchester's really good at. We've seen a number of the different cultural institutions that are going along here, and one that I'm most closely involved with and most proudly involved with is the Manchester International Festival. And I'm just going to pass over to Alex Poots to give a bit more detail on one of the things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Howard said something very interesting back then about the city's unique history, about its sense of pride and confidence. When I had the great fortune of applying for the job of setting up, not just running, but setting up the Manchester International Festival, to me it seemed there were two things in question. One, well, do we need another festival in Britain? Maybe not. But actually, if there was somewhere that was going to be brave and bold enough to not only look into its past to create something from its past and express that in a cultural way, but also to take risks and to make the world's first commissioning festival, which means the first festival that is all about creating new work, premiering new work, world premieres, that would be a very bold, ambitious thing. I thought that it was very important that if Manchester was to set up an international festival, it should grow from its roots, should grow from its past. So the idea that the world's first festival of making new work would be born in a place that was world famous for industrialization, for making things, for exporting things, that seemed to be a really strong resonance in the kind of the DNA that we had to put into this festival. So thus was born the Manchester International Festival. We've had 3 festivals to date. We're very, very committed to keep to our USP of new work. Something that's happened more recently, which also reflects the past history of Manchester, is that we've started to take a number of our projects that were starting to grow and we co-commission them with international presenters, so the Madrid Opera, the Holland Festival, all kinds of people who invest in the city. We've tripled our investment from foreign partners. It's in the millions now. And of course what that does is not only help us create things for the people of Manchester and the visitors to Manchester, but it allows us to take Manchester and the festival's name around the world. So next week, the Zaha Hadid Pavilion that we premiered in Manchester in 2009 will be at the Abu Dhabi Festival, opening there, and it was at the Holland Festival last year. So that's the introduction for those who maybe aren't so familiar with the festival. That's what this city's, Manchester's festival is all about. It's not copying a Glastonbury, it's not trying to be Edinburgh, it's very much Manchester's festival. I'd just like to maybe present to you, if I may, 3 productions that we did in 2009. Again, just for those who maybe are less familiar with the festival. The first one is, these are the members of Kraftwerk. I was very keen in the last festival to create something that really couldn't have happened anywhere else in the world. One of our greatest assets in the city, one of many, is our velodrome. It's put Manchester on the world in terms of sports. I thought it would be amazing to have a group who have a resonance with cycling. For those who know, Kraftwerk wrote an amazing song called Tour de France. And so what we did was brought over Kraftwerk from Germany, who are basically the inventors of electronic music. And of course, Manchester has a strong history with New Order, other electronic groups who are influenced by Kraftwerk. We brought them over, and when their song Tour de France came on, the gold medal cyclists came around and did laps of honor during the show there in the velodrome. And it was a very special event, and one that really no one else in the world could have emulated. It could have only happened in Manchester. Another only made in Manchester event was this rather wonderful gentleman here, Guy Garvey, as you'll all know, the lead singer of Elbow, who have been working away for 15 years and finally won the Mercury Music Prize 2 years ago. I'd like to read something to you. So it might just take a little while, but Guy, this just came out in the press this morning, and it just was emailed over to me. And I just think at this moment, just to kind of, Guy expresses the value of people investing in their city's culture, whether it be the public sector or the private sector. And if you permit me to read you what he's just said in this interview. He says, "I feel so lucky to be part of British music. The most important experience we've had, though, as a band, have been afforded to us by organisations and funding for the arts. In 2009, MIF suggested a collaboration with the Halley Orchestra. The second performance at Bridgewater Hall was broadcast live to Castlefield Arena, where 6,000 people sat in the sunshine and watched the performance on a giant relay screen." So that was the concert in the Bridgewater Hall, and this was relayed out to Castlefield Arena. I go back to the quote. "We've never been more proud. The Halley is the oldest professional orchestra in the UK and one of the best. We never dreamed we'd hear them playing our melodies. The generosity of spirit from everybody involved in that project was a life lesson for the band. The more room you give to creative people, the better the result." That's a gentleman now who's touring the world, arenas around the world with his band Elbow, taking Manchester with him around the world. So we're very proud to have had that association and to have presented those unique concerts in what is, let's not forget, Britain's finest acoustic concert hall. The third production from last year I'd like to take you through. Also, I always try and find unique sites in the city, and we were very fortunate that Mike Ingle and Adelaide London allowed us into one of their office blocks, and we created this. It's quite hard to see this, but it was 6 stories it was like a ghost walk you walked through, and it was called It Felt Like a Kiss. It was created by the world leaders of, this is called experiential theatre, Punch Drunk, and they worked with Adam Curtis, the renowned journalist, and it was like a haunted house that you walk through and you discover things through it. It got rave reviews all around the world, and I'm glad to say that this week, Punch Drunk, with their new show, are opening in the Armory in New York, and much of the success of that has been based on their performances in Manchester. Finally, for 2009, the highlight, this was called Procession. This was on Deansgate. For those who were at Petracuccia last night, it was very inspired by one of the presentations where they wanted to pedestrianise Deansgate, and I'd wholly support that if we were ever allowed to do that. This was a one-day pedestrianisation of it, and Jeremy Deller, Turner Prize winner, worked with 20 different community groups to create floats of things that matter to them in their community. MIF is as much about welcoming international artists from around the world as it is about celebrating the unique character of the city. And so this procession, over a year, Jeremy Deller worked with these communities and created these wonderful floats celebrating different aspects of the city. That's developed by our MIF creative program, which is about linking the MIF Festival into the community. Sneak preview of the festival that's coming this summer. The dates are 30th June to the 17th of July. We announced the full festival next week, so unfortunately I can't give you sneak previews of that. But I can say that in addition to the 3 shows that I'm going to give you a slight overview on, we do have one of the world's biggest rap stars coming to Manchester for a unique show. We've got a 30 million album selling pop star coming to be in residence in the festival. We are doing a huge amount of work for kids. This special project's being devised for 7 to 12-year-olds and 6 months to 6-year-olds that will run throughout the whole festival. A third of the festival will be free again. We're very committed that if we have public and private sector funding, this should be a festival for everyone in the city. So people of all kinds of backgrounds and incomes have a chance to come to the festival. So the first preview event is this one. You may know some of these people. Willem Dafoe on the left, Hollywood star, Marina Abramovich, Anthony the Johnsons, and Robert Wilson. This is called The Life and Death of Marina Abramovich. It's a major new production. The world premiere is here before it goes to the Madrid Opera, the Basel Art Fair, the biggest art fair in the world, and then on to the Holland Festival. We went on sale with this in October, and within a week, 30% of the sales that had gone on sale were from around the world. So a show like this will bring people from all over the world. There's people coming from China, from South America, from America, all over Europe, and the Far East. So I guess the point of mentioning this is that really culture not only has an enriching thing for a society, but it also has a big economic impact. In 2009, the economic impact of the festival was £35 million, and the value of the press was £20 million. So there are commercial reasons to support and invest in MIF. The second show is our dearly beloved Victoria Wood, national treasure, although she doesn't like to be called that. We're thrilled that Victoria is writing and directing a new show for Manchester. The world premiere will be at the Opera House. There will be 9 performances, so it's 18,000 tickets available for this show. But the thing that really attracted Victoria to MIF wasn't just that it was from her home region, but that we have this thing called MIF Creative. I mentioned it before in relation to the procession. Victoria has always been intrigued in a thing from the past, Manchester's past, called the Manchester Children's Choir, which some of you will remember was a choir in 1929 made up in a very deprived background of North Manchester, and 150 kids were given the opportunity to have singing lessons, and they learnt to sing. They recorded Nymphs and Shepherds, and it was a huge hit. It sold hundreds of thousands of 78s. She wants to recreate that story, but looking at the kids who are then looking to the future with the world in their hands, and then the middle-aged people 40 years on and what actually happened to them. But the thing that really attracted her is that we said, okay, well, we'll go into North Manchester, we'll train 150 kids to sing over a year, we'll pay for all of that, and they can be in your show. And that's what drew her to come back home to make this new show. You'll have all seen Eric and Ernie on the telly on New Year's Day, which she wrote and performed in. Finally, this very cryptic picture doesn't give much away, but just to say more about our free events. We've over the years, we had Monkey, created by Damon Albarn, the Gorillas, and all about the Chinese story. We had Rufus Wainwright's opera. We're very committed to bringing wider audiences to culture. And this is a very special event we're working with the Halle and Sir Mark Elder on. We're doing a free performance of an introduction to one of the greatest operas ever written by Wagner, the Ring Cycle, and it's the Valkyrie. And we're doing a 1-hour introduction to that opera, followed by the third act performed in its entirety, and that'll be free to audiences at the Bridgewater Hall. So there's a few press quotes I'll just leave you with about the forthcoming festival. And really just to end by saying, I think even in these very difficult times, it's really important that we hold our nerve. We got a setback from the Development Agency, and I can't stress how supportive Howard, Richard, and the City Council have been to take us through these difficult times. But we weren't expecting that we'd triple, 300% increase on our co-commissioning budget. you know, the city should still try and invest in its fabric, and arts is the fabric, and culture is the fabric of any great city. You know, a city without culture is a very impoverished city, and I'd like to thank you all, many of you who are already supporters, to thank you all for your commitment through these difficult times, and look forward to seeing you in the summer. Thank you.